Yeah, well, actually one of my partners in my law firm, Dana, was working with a young lady through the program, and she and I were talking about it, and she knew that I enjoyed spending time with children. I don't have any of my own. I gave Michelle a call, and we went through the process, and you know, they do their screening, and after that, I think Michelle had somebody in mind for me right away after she talked to me, the young man's name is Jeff. And Jeff and I have been matched for a little over 3 years. So I've seen him go from just a little under 10 to 13 years old, which is an interesting age.
Sure.
You know, Jeff's a great kid. And while I thought I was just doing something civic and altruistic and giving of, Jeff and I usually meet a couple times a month, usually every other Sunday actually, but the schedule is pretty flexible, depending on, you know, how my schedule is. And you know, for a 10-year-old, he's usually a 10 to 13-year-old, usually a little more flexible when they have some time, but not always. But for me, I thought, you know, okay, I'll do something good. I'll give back to the community. You know, maybe I'll hopefully be a positive male role model for somebody. And you know, as I look back on it, I've probably ended up getting as much, if not more, out of the relationship than Jeff has. I don't know if you're tracking how the mentors are doing, Michelle, but it's been amazing. You know, it's I appreciate you calling me a young man. Some days I feel it, some days I don't. But when I'm with him, I almost have no choice. It's a reintroduction to the world of a preteen and a teenager, and also seeing how much that world differs from what I knew. But also, it's a chance for Jeff to be the focus. At least a couple times a month of an adult's attention with nothing else going on. When I first met Jeff, he was in a very challenging household environment. His grandparents were raising him and his brother, and in addition, there were 2 to 6 other grandchildren in the house, depending on the day or the time. His grandparents are wonderful people, but as you can imagine, with that many children and given their age and their situation, it's just not so much time to be able to devote to each individual child. And having an older sibling, I suspect, you know, that he may not have been the dominant child in the household. So this to me was a great situation with a great kid to let him pick a lot of the time what we were going to do within reason, and you know, let him experience some things he might not otherwise be able to, given, you know, what I was able to bring to his life. And you know, it's been as simple as going to ball games, going to museums, playing laser tag, bowling, putt-putt, I mean, and you know, going to movies, just really what, you know, an activity he feels like doing that maybe he wouldn't otherwise have a chance. And I have to say, you know, he's definitely a different child than the one I met, and yet the same in a lot of the ways, but he definitely has opened up to an extent. And you know, it's nice to see the growth, not just by age, but in maturity and in his interaction with his brother. I get to see that, you know, he's on his way to becoming a good young man.
Todd, this brings up another question. You've been with Jeff for a little more than 3 years. How and when do you make the decision that basically the time together is coming to an end and we begin the termination process, which is, you know, in itself, as can be smooth or it can be difficult. How does that go from your experience? And I'll ask Michelle.
Right. Well, you know, from my experience, I don't really see, you know, that this has a shelf life. I believe the program follows you through when the child turns 18. But at this point, you know, Jeff seems happy with me, and I'm happy with Jeff. So, you know, unless he were to move or I were to move, I don't really see that this has an end date. I would intend, you know, knowing what I know today, to keep in touch with Jeff after he became an adult, and you know, hopefully be able to continue the relationship. You know, whether or not I end up married with a family of my own, I don't really see that as you know, being something that would terminate this. It would really probably only be geographic limitations.
I think that's so important. You've forged a bond, and this young person knows that there isn't going to be a someday when Todd won't be involved in Jeff's life. You will always have that connection because of what you have shared together.
I certainly hope so. And I know I believe that the commitment is an annual commitment. So, you know, there have to be some matches that haven't worked out as well as Jeff and mine has. So, you know, assuming the mentor is still interested, I believe that gives them an opportunity to find somebody they may be a better match with, and the same for the mentee. But for Jeff and I, it's like I said, it's been enjoyable for me in ways I would never have expected. And, you know, well, since Jeff hasn't asked out, I assume it's going well from his perspective as well.
Well, I think your story is a story of volunteers in general. Whatever they give, whether it's helping another young person or in a hospital setting or anywhere, whatever they do to volunteer. Maybe it's being a school board member or a member of the West Bloomfield Township Board or the Novi City Council Board or wherever. Obviously, you get something in return that is a continuing motivator. But let's go back a little bit, Michelle, how the process works in becoming a mentor.
Okay.
Obviously, you do want to screen individuals. Tell us a little bit about how that goes.
Okay. There is a screening process, and part of the reason why our program does have a lot of success with duration rates, the annual, it is an annual commitment. It's a commitment of 1 year, but we do ask people that if they're going to do this, it's something that they see doing for more than a year. And most of our matches last well beyond 2, 3 years and beyond. And a lot of that is because of what our process is initially in making a match and in screening and training mentors. It's a very individualized process, and we tell this to potential mentors as well as the parents and the children, that we take a lot of time to interview and get to know the mentors and find out what they're looking to get out of this, and are they looking to mentor a young child or maybe a teenager they'd be more comfortable, and what's the geographic location they prefer, and what are the activities that they like to do, what are their hobbies and interests, in order to make a good match initially that would provide for success in the relationship. So there is an application process, an interview with one of our coordinators. There's a 2-hour mentor training. And then once we do all of that with a mentor, we identify one of the children on the waiting list who we also interview, get to know, find out what they're looking to get out of this. We determine in our minds what would be a good match. We then set up a meeting with the parent or guardian and the mentor first so that they can talk to one another and interview in order to determine if this would be a good match in their eyes, and then the next meeting would be bringing in the child to meet with the mentor. And we usually do that in a bookstore setting where the staff can sit with the parent or guardian, and the mentor and the child can walk around and get to know one another and look at some books and see if they feel like it's a good fit, and then the match is made at that point.
Excellent.
So it's a very thorough process, and there's background screening on all of our mentors on a federal level.
Yes, that's just safety first. Obviously, there's got to be a connection too with a parent or guardian. How does that work out, Todd?
I'll say for me, it's been very easy. I'm sure it's a little more difficult for some other mentors, but I say, well, I said Jeff's situation may have been challenging. His grandparents are great people, very appreciative of the time that I can spend with Jeff, very accommodating in terms of fitting in my schedule. I said usually it's an every other Sunday, but obviously that doesn't always work. Being a professional, employed professionally, there are times that just, you know, either I need to be away on business, or there are just times where I'm away because, you know, I want to be on vacation or something like that. And it's never been an issue, you know, setting up times or anything like that. And if there's anything going on, Jeff has ADHD. And so, you know, we usually talk about the status of his medication, if there's any changes, anything I need to be aware of or watch for in his behavior. So really, it's been very easy to talk to Ethelyn and John, his grandparents, about you know, what's going on, what their concerns are, if there's anything they would like me to perhaps impart as a lesson if the opportunity presents itself, or to engage in a certain discussion.
They're wonderful people.
Yeah. Well, I applaud that interaction, because that completes the whole circle there.